Good afternoon, everyone. I am Brandon Piper. I'm the administrator for the Division of Industry Services. Thank you for joining us for our quarterly webinar. As always, we hope you find these worthwhile and walk away with some information that maybe you didn't know before. You may have noticed after our last webinar that you received a questionnaire for suggestions on what you'd like to see in upcoming future webinars. We take it very seriously. We want all of you to get the most out of what we're offering here. So you'll be seeing that again after this webinar in our quarterly newsletter coming out Friday. So please, if you value these and want to see some content that we haven't provided so far, please participate in that survey. And hopefully next webinar, we can get your suggestions in there. So to get everything started, I think we have Brian Rausch from the elevator program up first. Brian, are you there?
I am, Brandon. Thank you. We can go to the first slide, please. Thank you. I'm Brian Rausch. My supervisor is Kim Schmidt. You're always welcome to contact him or myself, or you can contact the elevator program through the Elevator Tech email box. So I'd like to talk this afternoon about stretcher-sized elevators. There's been a requirement in SPS 362 for elevators to be capable of carrying an ambulance-type stretcher. This requirement has been in the code since 2011, as far as I can find and remember. The requirement has been in there that long, but occasionally we still see some buildings come through an elevator plan review that do not have a stretcher capable elevator when they're required to. Next slide, please. So the IBC requires stretcher capable elevators in certain buildings. IBC 3002.4 requires them in a building 4 or more stories above or 4 or more stories below grade plane. So SPS 362 does not change that. So I guess when you look at a building like this from grade and you can count 4 stories above grade or 4 stories below grade, that building needs to have at least one stretcher capable elevator. So Wisconsin code does not change that. I think a lot of out-of-state architects believe that that's the last word on the subject. And I think some of our issues come from mostly from out-of-state architects, but again, some from in-state and some that maybe some building code officials might not be aware of the requirement on the next slide, please. So Wisconsin SPS 362 adds this requirement: any floor above or below the level of fire department vehicle access, any floor, if the floor accommodates any one of the following occupancies. So even in a 2-story group I, hospitals, nursing homes, things like that, any floor above or below grade in an R2, or that is an R2 occupancy, or any such floor that has outpatient clinic or ambulatory healthcare facility is required to be served by a stretcher capable elevator. I guess I can advance the slides here. Here we go. So going back to the 2009 IBC, that included a smaller size stretcher. That included a stretcher that, or required compliance for a stretcher that was 24 by 72, but later that was changed to 24 by 84. So the requirement for a stretcher capable elevator corresponded with a larger elevator then. So currently the requirement is for an 84-inch long stretcher. A typical ambulance stretcher has curved corners, So that radius of 5 inches is defined in the code for the corners of the stretcher. So if you were to have a building, let's say you had a building like this with a lobby entrance from grade on the right, and you might have a parking level down a partial floor. You may have floors 1, 2, and 3 that are R2. This is a typical situation where we run into this requirement not provided. It is necessary for the elevator to be sized and configured so that stretcher of that size, 24 by 84, can enter from the lobby where the fire department or EMT would park with the ambulance or rescue squad. They would enter the elevator from the lobby entrance, and they would need to exit at floors 1, 2, and 3 to get to those R2 occupancies. They would not necessarily need to exit at parking because that does not contain an I or an R2 occupancy. So that might seem simple enough. I'm going to skip this and come back to it. So in the configuration shown here in this slide, if you have an elevator that's rather small, you still may be able to get a stretcher into it at this angle. So an elevator, a small elevator, would require the stretcher to enter at the front, shown at the bottom of this picture, and would need to exit at the rear to serve floors 1, 2, and 3. If the rear entrance was on the right side of the elevator car, where the front entrance is shown on the right side, the stretcher could enter at the front, but it could not exit at the rear. So it's important, if an elevator is rather small, that it be configured this way. So let's back up to this picture or this slide. So this is a good guide as to whether an elevator on a building plan is stretcher sized. If it's less than 35,000 pound capacity, it's not likely to be stretcher capable. So that would be about a 38 square foot elevator. If you were to be reviewing building plans and you were to scale the size of the stretcher, or the size of the elevator, I should say, the interior dimensions, and you come up with a size that's smaller than 38 square feet, that's not likely to be stretcher capable. If you have an elevator that's 38 to 42.2 square feet, that corresponds to a 3,500 pound capacity elevator, or to something under 4,000 pounds. There generally aren't elevators in that range. They come in capacities that go up incrementally by 500 pounds. So if you see a 3,500 pound elevator, 38 square feet, that is likely to be stretcher capable. And again, like I stated on this slide, that's only if the doors are offset to one side. So this represents a 3,500 pound elevator. If there were no rear entrances here, there were only front entrances, you could get the stretcher in the front and out of the front. So that wouldn't be a problem having a 3,500 pound elevator. If we go back to this this guide, when you get to 4,000 pound and larger, so 42 point or larger than 4,000, 42.2 square feet, the elevator could have center opening doors. 4,000 pound capacity allows for the stretcher to enter straight in. A 4,000 pound capacity elevator, instead of being wider, probably should have a diagram of one of those here. Instead of being having the elevator enter at an angle, a 4,000 pound capacity elevator is deeper and not quite as wide. So a stretcher can go into a center opening door configuration on a 4,000 pound or larger elevator. Typically, when you see a hospital elevator on plans, that would be a 4,500 pound elevator. Hospital elevators generally have center opening doors and they're very deep elevators. So they could very easily accept a stretcher going from the center of the front of the elevator to the center of the back of the elevator without having to angle the elevator at all. So when we go to this guide again, here we go. If you have an elevator larger than 42.2 square feet, so 4,000 pound capacity or larger, you can have center opening doors. So that larger elevator, it doesn't matter if the doors are centered or offset, front or rear, that elevator will always be able to carry a stretcher. So these are the three main categories of elevators that you might see in a building. 3,500 pound capacity, smaller than that, or larger than 4,000 or larger. So smaller than 3,500, 3,500 to 4,000, and then 4,000 and larger. It's very rare to see custom configurations. There are some that are available. We've been told that there are some 3,000 pound capacity elevators that can be configured to carry a stretcher, but that's very uncommon. Creating custom elevator configurations is expensive, and it's unlikely that you will see those. If you're an architect or building reviewer, ideally, if you do see an elevator smaller than 38 square feet, you would ask them to prove that it is stretcher capable. They may send you a diagram that would show the elevator or the stretcher in the elevator like this one. That would be okay if they've drawn it to scale. That would be essentially what you would need to be able to approve that building plan. When we see them, elevators that are too small on elevator plan review, it's often too late to really do anything about that. The hoistway is constructed. Building plans, of course, have been approved. It's very difficult to increase the size of an elevator once the building is constructed. We've had some where the elevator was very undersized, as small as maybe a 1,200 pound, 1,400 pound capacity elevator, where it needed a 3,500 pound. And in that case, that elevator, there would be no possible way to configure it to carry a stretcher. So for elevators that have a stretcher capable elevator, if it's the only elevator in the building, it's not required to have the Star of Life designation. But if there are multiple elevators in the building and some are stretcher capable and some are not, or one is stretcher capable and the others are not, then the stretcher capable elevator needs to have the identification, the Star of Life on the hoistway door frames on each landing. So those symbols are not less than 3 inches high and approximately 60 inches above the floor on each of the landing door frames. So I guess in summary, if you're doing building design or plan review, please keep an eye out for stretcher capable elevators. Are there any questions that I could answer?
Thank you, Brian. And next up, we have Dave Reason with the Mine Safety Group. Dave, are you there? Dave?
Okay, come on, microphone.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, let's try this again. I'm Dave Reason. I'm State Mining Inspector. Work for Kim Schmidt out of the Waukesha office. And this is my first time trying to use the take control of a presentation, so wish me luck. Here we go. Okay. A lot of times when you think of mining, you think of things like this little 70-ton haul truck out there. But what we need to basically dive into today is how we fund the program, and that's actually a two-step process. SPS 308, which is the Mine Pits and Quarries Code, Section 10 requires a notice to the department to commence operations, and then there's a safety service fee section in 13.1. So each year, beginning of the year, for year-round operations, sometimes this will happen like the 20th of December of the preceding year. The department needs to be notified that a mine is going to be opening up its locations. And there is no fee associated with this notice. It's basically, hey, we're going to be opening up 6, 8, 10, however many mine sites out there, and commence either extraction, and it doesn't matter whether it's involves blasting or not. Dimension stone operations use pretty much deck cord. That's about it. We've got places out there that are essentially an esker or a drumlin, and you can just dig it out with an excavator. Regardless of how they produce material for commerce, they need to let us know that they're going to be starting up and when, and their best guess as far as when they're going to end operations. This whole process used to be done via essentially a postcard for each location. It would get sent into the Madison office, and then staff would take it, enter it into all things, just a spreadsheet, and keep track of them that way by company. This has all been sped up by the ESLA system. So now they just log in and tickle the keyboard and enter their mine sites. The nice part is, once they've entered a mine site, it stays in there associated to that company year after year. So if they get a dozen mine sites and they're only going to open half a dozen, well, then you just go down, select those half dozen, tell us when you're going to start, when you're going to end, and that's all it takes. This is similar to what the feds have, either surface or underground mines. You need to tell them when you're going to start and actually have operations. Where we say, okay, you're going to open up the 1st of March and you're going to end the 1st of December. They could be in and out of there 2, 3, 4 times with a crushing operation. The feds say if you're in there from the 1st of April to the 15th, you tell us that you're there for those 15 days. We're not quite as Teutonic, but the feds are very precise. So there is a bit of difference. What happens is get a little confusion out there. Folks say, well, I told the feds when I'm starting, why do I have to tell you? It's like, first of all, our databases don't talk to each other. Second of all, we've had this out there for a lot longer than there's even been MSHA. This requirement's been in the code since, oh goodness, the 60s. And federal MSHA has only been around since the early 70s. This is what is known as the crushing fee. It's actually the safety service fee, and this is the schedule. Depending on how much material they produce at each location, at the end of operations for the year, they're required to send in payment for each amount that they produced. So while we don't get down to, okay, you produced, 123,000 ton, just what cohort does that amount fit into? In this case, it would be number 3. Their fee for that location would be $280. This used to be done via a letter that got sent out after that calendar year, and then they would mail back a paper check. So this is what the crushing fee or the safety service fee pays for. Basically, by time going out and doing inspections, investigating complaints, explosive storage facilities, going out there, what we charge for magazine inspections is a start, but basically that pays for the permit. Occasionally I get called out to consult or assist with old explosives disposal, which makes for a real fun day. Also go and inspect at fireworks manufacturers, make sure they're, assembling in a safe manner, in a safe location. The hobbyists, thank God, typically assemble outside on a picnic table. We have had some other hazardous occupancies, those that are cleared for indoor manufacture of fireworks, and making sure that modifications haven't been done to create an explosion hazard inside of those facilities gets to be a real joy. And then there's high interest use of explosives. For example, widening a highway from 4 lanes to 6 lanes. Okay, you're going to have to push back the shoulders, put in a couple of more off ramps, on ramps, change your drainage. Next thing you know, you've got you're coming across hard rock that needs to be blasted out of there. And a lot of times that's at night when traffic is less. So it gets to be fun. Bridge demolition is also gets to be a real joy because a lot of times they take out the old bridge right after they put in the new one. So they're very close. If it's not done properly, taking out the old bridge could damage the brand new one. And then you have little things like road clearing. You get rocks that are a little bit too big to push out of the way, or whatever's downhill, you don't want this rock rolling on top of. So you have to get in and blast it up into smaller parts. Another high interest use of explosives where having a few extra questions answered makes sure that material goes where it's expected to go and doesn't cause somebody a problem on their private property. Fly rock investigations, again, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but that is a baseball size hole through that mature tree that rock left the mine property and didn't stop until it actually went through. So investigating stuff like that gets to be involved and takes a little bit more than usually stopping by and taking a picture. So that's it in a nutshell as far as how we pay for the program and what we do. Anybody got any questions out there? Or has my microphone been on mute the whole time?
No, I think we're good, Dave. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up from the Pouch program, we have Katie. Katie, are you there?
I am. Thank you, Brandon. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Katie Petzel. I'm a plan reviewer with the POUTS program where April Hammond is our supervisor. You can feel free to contact either of us or any of the POUTS team members if you have questions after today's presentation. Today I'm here to talk to you about some of the highlights of what our entire team has done this quarter and this year. As I walk you through these highlights of our program's recent efforts, I just want to emphasize one key theme, and that's partnership. Everything I'll share today with you represents the combined effort of many dedicated individuals and organizations. These successes were made possible not just by the work of our program, but through the collaboration, cooperation, and shared expertise of all of our partners. Whether it's hosting trainings or addressing industry challenges, these achievements reflect what we can accomplish together. So I have 4 key topics that I want to share with you. First, we'll dive into Pouts Chat, which is a program that I'm really closely involved with as I manage its logistics and am a presenter on it. Next, I'll highlight an exciting new partnership with UW Extension. After that, we'll look ahead to upcoming training opportunities. And finally, we'll wrap up with some updates to the Pouts component manuals. So with that in mind, let's dive in. So as I mentioned, the Pouts Chat is an initiative that's especially important to me since its launch in 2021. We've hosted a session on the second Tuesday of every month at 9 a.m., with the exception of August when DSPS staff are at Farm Technology Days. Starting late last year, we began recording, editing, and posting each chat to the DSPS YouTube page, and that makes them accessible for anyone who missed the live session or who is interested in catching up or revisiting these key topics. The topics for these webinars are shaped by feedback and questions received by DSPS staff from the broader Pouts community. So for example, in November, our session was focused on individual site designs. So those are designs for Pouts that are tailored to the specific needs of a site and not designed based upon our standard component manuals. This topic was specifically requested by a county plan reviewer and inspector, so that was very helpful for us. We also prioritize inviting special guests who bring specialized knowledge and bring valuable industry connections to our attendees. So for example, in 2024, we were fortunate enough to have representatives from the Wisconsin Department of Health Services, the National Sanitation Foundation, and Infiltrator Water Technologies, who shared their expertise on a variety of topics that are important to them. So it's a relatively low effort initiative, but it has an impressive impact. So in 2024, we recorded about, and this is an approximate number, 1,400 live attendees at the sessions. And that totaled with the YouTube views is about 240, 250 combined continuing education hours. And of those people, there were about 320 unique participants. So those numbers reflect Zoom data, i.e. the number of accounts that were tuned in, but we don't really know the full scope of our reach, as I know there have been instances where entire apprentice classes or an entire zoning department tuned in under a single account. So the true number of participants is actually likely even higher. As we have many reoccurring attendees for Pouts Chat, and we have begun doing some mini series that stretch over multiple sessions over multiple months. So this December, we began a mini series talking more in depth about soil science as it is foundational to Pouts. So for example, Pouts Chat was yesterday. We did 20 to 30 minutes on that. And in the next reoccurring Pouts Chats, probably for 5 months here, it'll be about 15 minutes dedicated to that mini series. All right. Despite our best efforts, the Pouts team knows that we sometimes can't alone provide the best training available in the most efficient manner. So for that reason and so many more, in 2024, we started a partnership with UW Extension to offer more soils trainings in the field. This partnership allows us to tap into the extensive contact network and logistical abilities of UW Extension and that they've built over all the years of the other trainings that they provide. So in fall 2024, we hosted two-day class and field trainings for basic soils. The goal of these classes is to provide rising soil testers with the basic information and skills they need to pass the certified soil tester exam. In fall 2024, these locations were in Anago and in Prairie du Sac. There were 60 attendees, which, as there are less than 700 total certified soil testers in the state of Wisconsin, represents a pretty good chunk of that industry. So in 2025, we plan to continue this partnership with UW Extension and offer training in other parts of the state to make it available to an even wider group of people. So in the pictures on these slides, the first one is the Anago Silt Loam Song, which is a song written by Francis Hole. The staff at the Pouts department try to emulate his enthusiasm for educating people on soils, but I'm going to refrain from subjecting you to my singing. So also pictured is Jeff Brubaker in blue, who is a DSPS staff member and one of our resident soil gurus. That picture is from the Prairie du Sac field day. Okay, On this slide, you'll see the plan training opportunities for winter 2025. As always, POUTS Chat will continue to be held monthly, except August, but that's a long ways out now. In addition, DSPS will host our annual in-person county staff training. This year, it's going to be in Wausau. We're also this year excited to introduce virtual versions of our plan design and basic soils classes. These sessions were announced last Friday, and by the time I was back in the office Monday morning, they were already full. So that's a testament to how strong the interest is in these topics. And for those people who couldn't secure a spot, we plan to record and post the sessions on the DSPS YouTube page as well, so that they're accessible to a broader audience. Beyond the events that we host, DSPS staff will also present updates in winter 2025 and training at county-sponsored events and other industry gatherings, including those from WOWRA, so the Wisconsin On-Site Waste Recycling Association. And that just represents our ongoing commitment to supporting the industry. If you scan the QR code on that page, it'll bring up the DSPS Book When page, which is where a person could sign up for any trainings that DSPS hosts. All right, the final topic I'd like to highlight today is the approval of new and updated component manuals. So component manuals are those documents that are used to create most POUTS plans in the state of Wisconsin. And for brand new manuals, the code requires that they be reviewed by the Technical Advisory Committee, which is a group of representatives from all across the state, from all across the POUTS industry. Updates and revisions to component manuals are reviewed by DSPS staff with careful consideration of industry feedback, as well as any new testing results or certifications that the manufacturers of those manuals provide to us. So in 2024, new manuals were introduced for the Aerofin products. They're new to the state, and those are pictured in the bottom left of your screen. And updates and revisions were approved for the Elgin product, so the upper right, the Geomat product, the upper left, and the AES products, which would be the bottom right in those pictures. To keep people informed, we dedicate time during POUTS Chat to share details about these products and revisions. And occasionally we do, for example, in the case of a brand new product, allow a manufacturer's representative to provide training through POUTS Chat. So that's all I have for POUTS today. I'd like to thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, I would be more than willing to answer them either now, or you can send me an email or give me a phone call. Thanks.
Thank you, Katie. Next up, we have Rick Summerfield with Fire Prevention. Rick, are you there?
Brandon, I don't think Rick is going to do it today. I think it's going to be Gary Peck.
Okay. Gary, are you there?
Well, maybe we'll go to Plan C and Sarah will do it today.
Going once, Gary? Twice? It's Sarah. It looks like the floor is yours.
All right. Okay, I just have to take control here. Oh, do you guys get an echo going, or is that just me?
I think you're good now, sir.
Okay. So my name is Sarah Brown. I work for the Fire Prevention, Safety, and Health Program. I do the administration of the 2% fire dues, and I am also the NFIRS program manager. Soon to be, we're switching over from our NFIRS program. We are going to be changing to what's called NERIS. We probably the next quarterly meeting, we will have an update on that. Our section chief is April Heyman. and we'll start off with, from August of 24 to November of 24, we did 14 in-person and virtual presentations throughout Wisconsin. This year we did a little bit of a partnership with the Wisconsin Tech Colleges, and we did actually do 8 of those presentations at a tech college here in Wisconsin. One of the presentations was also done at the Wisconsin Fire Inspectors Association conference. This year it was at Chula Vista. I was unable to attend, but we had the 4 coordinators, so Rick, Aaron, Gary, and Steve were all in attendance. This year we saw record-breaking attendance for our fall training. It was wonderful. It's been, progressively over the last few years that we've been having these presentations, but this year was just outstanding. So hopefully it continues on, and next year is even a bigger year for us. This year, the presentations included elevators and the state fire code. We did an overview of 314 with special attention to the fire inspections and fire prevention program. We did also an overview on SPS 330 and how it pertains to fire department monthly meetings and annual training programs. We also did, Gary did a presentation on our Wisconsin Fire Dashboard for Craig 1300. And then I did my presentation was on the new DSPS Fire website and how to get around on there, how to find things. And then I also gave some updates on the new nearest system. So looking ahead to 2025, we're starting to move into our what's called 2% fire dues self-certification. That will start January 1st and be open until April 1st at midnight. New to our process this year, we are asking all the municipality clerks that to add the highest elected official information to be more in line, or to be in line with the statute 101.575. And then also we are changing two of the questions. We're just changing a word in there. We're changing the word from your to this. We're hoping that this will make the question more understandable to our municipality clerks, especially those ones that contract for fire services. Also looking ahead, in January, our fire coordinators will start doing the 2% fire dues audits. And that's where they go out to the fire departments and they audit them and make sure that they are in substantial compliance with SPS 314. So last year in 2024, we had 232 audits that were conducted. 195 fire departments were found to be in substantial compliance, which means pass. 37 of those fire departments were not in compliance, also known as in violation. 11 of those fire departments were a second-year fail, and when they get a second-year fail, that results in the municipality not being eligible for a fire dues payment of that in that year. So look at the 2025 goals. We're looking at roughly 62 fire departments to be audited per district, and we have 4 districts. So that runs about 248. Now, all of those fire departments that were found non-compliant last year will be re-audited this year. And hopefully they will pass the audit and they have fixed the issues that they were having in 2023. When we audit, it's always the year behind. So I tell everybody, look at it like your taxes. When it's 2025, we're auditing for 24. Now looking ahead thing to 25 is Vision 2020 data and analysis. We are going to, we're very excited to announce that we are going to be hosting a Vision 2020 data collection and analysis course here in Wisconsin. We're actually going to be doing it in Madison. It's going to be at the Madison Technical College. It'll be February 5th through the 7th. It's a 3-day course that provides our fire departments with the pathway to build their knowledge, skills, and abilities in working with local incident data and learning about their community and what where their problem areas are. On the screen, you can see there is a link. If you're interested in attending the course, please click that link and you can register. Farther ahead into 25, we will also be doing the fall training. Again, that will be August through November. We haven't decided on what we're going to do yet for training presentations. I'm sure that mine is going to have to do with NERIS. But if you guys, the fire departments, if you have some ideas and would like to reach out to one of us and let us know what you would like us to do a presentation on, we'd be more than happy to oblige you. And that's all I have for the fire prevention, safety, and health program. So I will hand it off to fire suppression and fire alarm plan review.
Thank you, Sarah. Joe, were you there?
Yes, good afternoon. I am here. I have lost the screen, however.
Oh, I think that was probably my fault.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Joe Nowicki. I'm with the Fire Suppression Fire Alarm Division of DSPS, and Kirk Rutten is my supervisor. You can reach Kirk at the email shown or any of us in the Fire Suppression Fire Alarm Division by using the Fire Protect email. Today's presentation is on the fire suppression fire alarm expiration dates and how they are deemed. So what sets the fire suppression fire alarm expiration plan review dates on a conditional approval? What are they? The date after which something such as a credit card is no longer in effect. Expiration dates, why are they vital? This became blank, but it is to help move along the construction so plans don't become sitting out there for years, that they have an expiration date for a project to be completed. I'm hoping these are all here. Expiration dates, why are they vital? Somehow. An expiration date in plan refers to the specific date after which a set of construction plans submitted for approval by a contractor are no longer considered valid. So once that expiration date has passed, those plans are not valid for that construction site anymore. What you need to do, which we'll discuss later in the presentation, is apply for an extension before those plans expire if the project is going to run long. They are a mechanism to hold project owners accountable for completing their construction projects with a reasonable time frame. Without this accountability, some projects might linger indefinitely, causing long-term disruptions in the community. Expiration dates. How are they decided? The length of time. Approved plans is based on state statute SPS 361.36. There are multiple factors in determining these expiration dates. If there's an associated building plan review, that would affect the expiration date. Is it an alteration to a fire protection or fire alarm system? That would affect the expiration date. And is it a standalone suppression or fire alarm system? Building shell. So the building shell is a typical structure that separates the interior of the building from the exterior. The associated building plan review under state statute 361.36, section 1, paragraph A, building shall, except as provided in paragraph F and subsection 2, paragraph B, plan approval by the department or its authorized representative for new buildings and building additions shall expire 2 years after the approval date indicated on the approved building plans, if the building shell is not closed within those 2 years. So fire suppression fire alarm submitted plan would receive the same expiration date as that of the building review. Occupancy. So building or part of a building intended to be occupied as by a tenant. Associated building plan review. Occupancy, except as provided in subsection 2, plan approval by the department or its authorized representative for new buildings shall expire 3 years after the approval date indicated on the conditionally approved building plans for interior completion. So you have 2 years to complete the shell of the building and an additional year to occupy the building and finish any of the interior finishes. Alteration, to make different without changing into something else. Alteration to a fire protection system. Alterations, except as provided in subsection 2, plan approval by the department or its authorized representative for interior building alterations shall expire 1 year after the approval date indicated on the approved building plans if the alteration work is not completed within that year. Fire suppression fire alarm submitted plan would receive an expiration date of 1 year from the date of building approval to complete this work with an associated building plan. This is for when a fire suppression or fire alarm system is being altered along with a building alteration. If it's just a fire suppression or fire alarm plan that's being changed without building alteration, that would receive 2 years, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. The standalone, complete in itself, intended, designed, or able to be used or to function alone or separately, not connected to or requiring connection to something else in order to be used or function. So we'll explain the standalone situations. Standalone fire suppression alarm systems, fire protection systems only, except as provided in subsection 2, plan approval by this department or its authorized representative for a fire protection system that does not include any associated building construction shall expire 2 years after the approval date indicated on the approved plans. If the building or building areas affected by the plans is not ready for occupancy within those 2 years. So if it's a standalone fire suppression plan, which is just the fire suppression system or fire alarm, it will get the 2-year expiration date. However, if there is a building review or a building alteration with it, it would have the 1-year expiration date. Standalone fire suppression alarm systems. Why might we see a standalone submittal? This happens when it's truly a system that is not associated with a building project. Whether it's a replacement of a system, a portion of a system that's being added to an existing system that didn't have suppression or alarm at that time, possibly a storage occupancy that's changing their type of storage for a fire suppression system, may need a replacement of their fire suppression system to comply with code at that point. The community in which the work is being done is a delegated municipality. So if there's a delegated municipality that work is being done, the plan would come in as a standalone fire suppression or fire alarm system. However, if that work being done in the delegated municipality has building alterations also assigned to it, the expiration date would be 1 year from the plan review conditional approval date from this department. Expiration dates. When are they assigned? Expiration dates are assigned when the plan review of the submitted project is completed and the letters are generated. If there is an associated building plan review, whether that be a new building or a alteration to an existing building, the date of the building plan review is used as the fire suppression fire alarm expiration date. If there is no associated building plan review, the expiration date is 1 year if it is a building alteration in a delegated municipality, or 2 years with associated building plan review from the completion of the fire suppression fire alarm plan approval. Expiration dates. Where can they be found? For the expiration dates, you can find those in 2 different locations. One is at the top of the approval letter. That will be right by the code applies and the plan approval letter underneath the submitter's information. The other is within the ESLA account dashboard. On the ESLA account dashboard, should be able to be found within the column on the right-hand side between the status and the review date. Extension of plan approval. So if we find out that our project isn't going to be completed by the time the expiration date is going to pass, we would need to apply for an extension of a plan review approval. Except as provided in paragraph B, upon request and payment of the fee specified in chapter SPS 302, the expiration dates in subsection 1, paragraph B, 2G may be extended provided the request is submitted prior to the expiration of the original approval. Any extensions for plan approval on existing approval letters need to be made prior to the current expiration date, in addition to having all additional fees being submitted. This is completed through ESLA. It is very important to apply for that extension before the expiration date. If the plan expires and you need extra time on the project, you would need to submit the entire project. Expiration dates. Who determines them or how are they determined? They're determined by DSPS staff, building plan reviewers per the administration code SPS 361.36 and the fire suppression fire alarm plan reviewers per the administration code SPS 361.36. So in conclusion, the expiration dates provide a date at which time the plans are no longer valid for use. The SPS staff and delegated municipalities determine the dates based on the administrative code SPS 361.36. Dates are assigned during the review approval process once the letters are generated. That would be the conditional approval letters. And they are found on the approval letter in the upper left-hand corner, right underneath the submitter's information, and in ESLA within that column on the right-hand side of the ESLA dashboard. That concludes the presentation for expiration dates. And you can find information on this also with the newsletter that will be published on Friday. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Next up with public sector safety, we have Andy Amacher. Andy, are you there?
I am. I'm Andrew Amacher. I'm one of the occupational safety inspectors with DSPS. Our supervisor is Lucas Dedrich, and you can reach us at the DSPS Health and Safety Tech Box email address listed in the bottom left corner of this slide. Today, I'm going to cover information directly related to our public sector safety program. In the state of Wisconsin, and public employees are protected and have similar protections that OSHA provides to the private sector through our program with DSPS. And one of the primary responsibilities that we take care of is the submittal of the injury and illness report each year for public employers. And I am going to run through some commonly asked questions that we get in that program, as well as helping determine what needs to be reported in the required report, and then give a brief overview of how the report is filed through the ESLA portal. So the injury and illness report is an annual report submitted each calendar year that summarizes all injuries and illnesses that happened in an employer, very similar to the OSHA 300A. It's due to DSPS by March 1st, and it's completed in the ESLA portal. There is a posting requirement that provides some confusion to customers. The report must be posted in a conspicuous place at the place of employment, and typically is posted where employees are provided other required posting notices that different agencies require. And the posting requirement is from February 1st through April 1st. Although the report is due by March 1st, the report the summary should be posted by February 1st. And the reports must be kept for 5 years. Which work-related injuries and illnesses need to be recorded? So recordable injury and illnesses are deaths, loss of consciousness, days away from work, restricted work activities or job transfers. We'll get into that a little bit further in the presentation here, and medical treatment beyond basic first aid. Other reportable incidents that we come across could be needle sticks with contaminated needles, medical removal from work, or hearing threshold shift if there's a loss of hearing in an employee. Not medical treatment. So the classification of medical treatment and first aid is a question that we are presented with quite a bit by individuals as they come across this report, especially for newer reporters. So not medical treatment, things that would not count on the injury illness report would be for observation only. Diagnostic procedures. So if they had an X-ray, an MRI, a CAT scan, but it was just for diagnostic procedures or process. First aid, and typically refer to that as basic first aid. And the definition of basic first aid I've included in here. It's a little bit different than what some folks would consider first aid. So in OSHA's definition, first aid refers to medical attention that is usually administered immediately after the injury occurs and at the location where it occurred. It often consists of a one-time short-term treatment and requires little technology or training to administer. First aid can include cleaning minor cuts, scrapes, or scratches, treating a minor burn, applying bandages and dressings, and using non-prescription medication, draining blisters, removing debris from the eye, massage, and drinking fluids to relieve heat stress. So commonly in some situations, these are some examples that could come up. So cleaning minor wounds or applying bandages, removing debris from the eye by flushing it or by a cotton swab, and the use of an eye patch. And that would also apply to if they went to a medical provider to have that done, it would be still be considered basic first aid, even though it wasn't done on site. Treating sprains with hot or cold therapy, massage, or the use of a sling. The use of non-prescription over-the-counter medicines such as ibuprofen, Tylenol, anything that can be obtained over the counter, and immunizations such as tetanus shots. For recording days away from work and restricted work, they are both required to be indicated by a medical provider. And we're counting the calendar days. It's not the days that the employee was scheduled for, the number of days the employee misscheduled. It is the total number of days from the injury, not counting the day of the injury. So that would include weekends. If the employee is typically not a weekend worker, it would still count weekends as it's a calendar loss of time, not a employment loss of time by the days that they would work. The difference between the two with restricted work would be applied to when an employee loses the ability to perform essential functions of the job. So some of these may change depending upon if they're an office person, they're still able to continue with their office work. It may not be considered restricted work. If the injury extends beyond the calendar year, if an employee was injured in December and they were still on restricted work or they were away from work, those days lost, even though in a new reporting year, would be counted on the year of injury. If the employee injury resulted in both days away from work and restricted days, we record the most severe, which would be days away from work. And there's a maximum of 180 days reporting for each incident. So if an employee was out longer than 180 days, you would stop recording the number of days at 180 days for each days away from work and restricted. And those two numbers are combined. There are instances where the employee may have days away from work and restricted work, and those numbers are combined to the total of 180. A few frequently asked scenarios that we've come across: insect bite, bees, ticks, chipped teeth, and chiropractic care. And the thing to remember is if the work-related duty or it was aggravated by work duties, they would be reportable. A lot of times there's questions on bee stings and employees that have EpiPens. EpiPens are prescribed by doctors, even if they were to have a known allergy to bees, because the EpiPen that they are using is prescribed by a doctor, they would be reportable as long as it happened under the situation of work duties or was aggravated by work duties. And another high question that we get from folks is elected officials from municipalities. Do they count on the report? And yes, any person who is compensated by the employer is counted on the report. Some other examples of individuals that are sometimes forgotten about are the seasonal workers, poll workers, and elected officials. So anyone that receives compensation from the employer in the form of pay for payroll, not an independent contractor, but an actual employee of the municipality would count in the report. As we've moved further after 2020, counting workers from home and how to handle injuries and illnesses that happened at home. OSHA's stance on it, which we adopt, is injuries and illnesses that occur while an employee is working at home will be considered work-related if the injury or illness occurs while the employee is performing work for pay or compensation in the home, and that the injury or illness is directly related to the performance of the work rather than to the general home environment or setting. So one way to determine it is to realize that the employee's home is simply their home by default, and that the work environment is when they're engaged in work related to tasks that would qualify for an injury and illness to be recordable. If the employee is on a work-related restriction from working from home, so say you had an employee that was assigned to a different task and was able to work from home, their lost time would still be recordable unless they can perform their essential job functions. So if you have an employee who is assigned a different task and no longer is able to perform their primary task of their job functions, their work restrictions would still be counted. The one thing I will note is that there is a recommendation from OSHA to provide employees with proper workstation setups and ergonomics. Most of the employees that are working from home are in an office setting, and to provide them with a type of notice of a proper work setup and ergonomics. And OSHA does have a e-tool for a computer workstation module on their website that address is listed there. I'm going to cover a brief level for the injury and illness report. This won't be extremely detailed for individuals who have done this before. This will be a refresher, and for individuals here who may be new, this will be kind of a overview of how to complete the report. So the report is submitted through our ESLA portal at esla.wi.gov. I will note, if you are a new reporter for a municipality or for a public employer, or you've moved employers since your last report, please reach out to your area safety inspector. I will have a map with the contact information for each of us at the end of this. It is important to reach out, as you cannot link yourself to a public sector safety account in our system without reaching out to a safety inspector. So please, if you're new or if you have questions after moving employers, please reach out to your area safety inspector. And as I said, we'll assist with linking and creating the account. So completing the injury and illness report, as I said, is done in ESLA. When you log in and after your account's been situated and set up properly, you'll navigate to the permit tab and select new application, which is seen circled in green. You'll then be prompted with an application selection. Note that some of these fields that are seen in this image are populated after you select a choice from above. So they'll start to be presented to you as you complete through these sections. This is a general overview of what the first portion of the report looks like. It'll have personal information, which comes from the account. And one of our areas that we have people that typically get hung up at is with the address. With some of the municipality accounts or public sector employer accounts, there's a lot of different addresses for different buildings in there. And occasionally there's issues with selecting an address. When you complete the address area, you do have to check the box next to the address for public in order for it to be saved to the report. And if there is an issue with it, my suggestion for folks is to use the garbage can icon. Hopefully you can see my mouse here. I'm circling it to remove the address and add a new one. When you do add a new address in the system, you'll need to ensure that you check the use this address as public before you hit the save button at the bottom, or it will not be pulled onto the application and the address will not display. Once the address has been completed, you will see a check mark with address saved successfully in the system, and you'll be able to move on. On the next section, you'll have your injury and illness report details. This is where you'll enter in the average number of employees and requirements into the system. With this, the number of cases reported into the system need to match the number of injuries and illnesses. And this is on the same page. I just couldn't get a good screenshot of both of them together. So note that you'll see them side by side. But the number of cases that you enter need to match the classification of those injuries and illnesses. The system will prompt you if you do not have a correct match between those classifications and the numbers reported. Once the details have been entered, you'll be sent to the submittal page. And if everything on the application is correct and has been entered, you'll see under the application review a blue check that says completed. You'll click to sign the application, saying that you have submitted the information as best as possible. And we'll have you type your name as an electronic signature as it matches on the account. Once the report's been submitted, you will receive a copy of it via email, usually within a few minutes, and that email will contain a summary of the report that you provided for you to be able to post as required. And you can also retrieve a copy of that report from our website or from the ESLA website. Once submitted, you'll see the injury and illness application, and you can go over to the options button and click download application. And I apologize, I have the arrow on the wrong area, but it would be download application, or sorry, print report. I apologize. Print report is where you would go to for that. One question that as I was going through that I forgot to mention, we have a lot of employers that ask about how to estimate or input time firm employees that are salaried. And from the department's perspective and the group's perspective is to use your best to judgment to guesstimate those hours. Those could be board members or individuals who maybe aren't punching a time clock every day. So for any of those folks, that would fall under those scenarios. You use your best judgment, and we can always assist you if you have questions or are not sure how to come up with that number. We can run you through different scenarios via phone or email with the safety inspector in your area to help you determine those numbers. I want to highlight real quickly, on our website, we have a lot of great information on the public sector safety area, including what we refer to as the SBD 10710 packet. That packet is several pages long. It goes through a lot of information in depth about what is reportable, what is not, and that these forms can be found by visiting our public sector safety program page at dsps.wi.gov/pages/program/public sector or public safety. And underneath at the towards the bottom of the page, there's an expandable menu under forms. That packet is highlighted here with the red arrow. And in that packet, there's a flow chart that helps determine if an injury or illness should be recordable and will help you make determinations in some of those situations. It's a great location to start at for general information. If you're a new reporter or need a refresher prior to this year's report coming up, I would suggest obtaining a copy of that packet through the website or reach out to your local safety inspector, and we can assist with sending that over to you for review. There's a lot of great information in that SBD packet. And as I stated, contact information, there are 6 safety inspectors in the state of Wisconsin, and our territories and locations are listed on the right here on the map, and our contact information can be found on the left-hand side. And again, for general questions, concerns, you can email the DSPS SB Health and Safety Tech at wisconsin.gov, and it will send that to us. I do believe I see a hand raised for a question from Al Hoffman. I don't know how we do those, Etta, or if we can take that.
We don't take questions at this webinar, but we could probably email you after.
Yeah, Al, if you want to send me a message directly, an email, and I can try to relay out information if there's something that came in. And that's all I have. Thank you,
All right.
everyone.
Thank you, Andrew. And thank all of you for attending our quarterly webinar. Again, we hope you found something worthwhile in this and found something that you can take away. Again, if you didn't, please, we're open to your suggestions. You'll see the opportunity again to participate in our survey to potentially add something that you'd like to see in this webinar in the future. So please, let us know what you think. Let us know any ideas for topics. We'd love to see them and love to present them for you. Again, these will be in our newsletter coming out this Friday. Please take a look. We hope all of you have a safe, warm, and happy holidays. Thanks again for your attendance.